My evening had started like any other. I was sitting in my office, engrossed in reports and accounts. The workdays had settled into a routine, and I had almost grown accustomed to the monotony. My wife, Emma, had been caught up in her affairs, and our interactions had become infrequent. It was as if we had drifted apart, and our conversations rarely extended beyond the mundane details of daily life. As I stared at my computer screen, my phone buzzed on the desk. I turned to glance at it, noticing a notification from an unknown number. I was inclined to ignore it, but something made me open the message. To my horror, a photo appeared on the screen. Emma was standing beside a man, her face lit up with a smile. I immediately recognized the man, Daniel Hart, the billionaire and founder of a well-known company who frequently appeared in the news. His face was familiar from magazine covers and television screens. My hands began to tremble, and I struggled to read the message text. "You've been deceived. I'm in your position." This brief message hit me like a bolt of lightning. I felt my world starting to collapse. My heart raced, and I could feel the blood pounding in my temples. I kept opening the photo, trying to comprehend that it was indeed Emma and Daniel, and that they seemed to be enjoying themselves like a couple in love. With each passing second, the shock deepened, and I couldn't understand how this could have happened. My first thought was that it must be a mistake or a prank. Perhaps someone was playing a cruel joke on me. I tried to call Emma, but her phone was turned off. Panic began to set in, but I knew I needed to stay calm and figure out what was going on. I recalled that she had mentioned a business trip recently, but I didn't know the details. Instead of letting my emotions take over, I set out to gather information. I checked my messages and found a text from her confirming her business trip. But the photo I had seen suggested something much more than just a work-related trip. I knew I had to act carefully. I needed to uncover the truth. But how? I began to review all the resources and surveillance methods available to me to try and understand what was happening. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in this investigation, gathering details and searching for any clues. Each night I lay awake, tormented by thoughts of Emma meeting Daniel, planning a future together that I thought was mine. I knew I had to take action. This betrayal might have been just the tip of the iceberg, and I was preparing myself to dig deeper into the truth. As I struggled with the anxiety and confusion, I started to devise a plan to uncover what was going on, and perhaps find a way to exact my revenge for the betrayal. With the weight of the revelation still heavy on my shoulders, I knew I had to dig deeper to uncover the full extent of Emma's betrayal. The photo and the mysterious message were just the beginning. I needed to find concrete evidence and understand how far Emma's deception had gone. The first thing I did was examine every detail of her recent activities. I spent hours poring over our bank statements and credit card transactions, trying to spot anything unusual. It was clear that our financial situation had been strained lately, but I hadn't expected to find anything this alarming. As I sifted through the transactions, I noticed several large and unfamiliar charges. There were high-end purchases at luxury stores and extravagant hotel bookings that seemed out of place for our budget. I also found multiple transactions at upscale restaurants and exclusive clubs. It became apparent that Emma had been living a lifestyle far beyond our means. Determined to gather more information, I began tracking her movements through her social media accounts and any shared digital footprints. I found posts and photos of her attending glamorous events and traveling to exotic destinations. It was evident that she had been spending a significant amount of time with Daniel Hart. I reached out to some of Emma's friends and colleagues, pretending to be interested in her recent activities. Through casual conversations, I learned more about her newfound lifestyle. It seemed that Emma had been talking about a new business venture and had been very secretive about her personal life, which only fueled my suspicion. My next step was to investigate Daniel Hart. I spent hours researching him online, looking for any connections between him and Emma. I discovered that he was not only a billionaire, but also a notorious playboy, known for his high-profile relationships and extravagant lifestyle. The more I learned about him, the more I understood why Emma might have been drawn to him. Realizing that I needed to act discreetly, I decided to follow Emma to gather first-hand evidence. I waited for the right moment when she was scheduled to meet Daniel. Using a mix of old-fashioned detective work and modern technology, I managed to track her to a posh hotel downtown. I arrived early and set up a hidden camera in the vicinity to capture any incriminating interactions. As I watched from a distance, my heart pounded in my chest. Emma arrived at the hotel with a look of excitement and anticipation. Daniel was already there, waiting in a luxurious suite. The meeting was intimate, and it was clear from their body language that they were more than just business partners. The hours dragged on as I recorded their interactions. I witnessed moments of affection and private conversations that confirmed my worst fears. Emma was deeply involved with Daniel, and their relationship was far more than a casual affair. It was clear that she was spending our money to maintain this lifestyle, which she had hidden from me. After gathering enough evidence, I reviewed the footage and photos. The pain of seeing Emma with another man was overwhelming, but I knew I had to remain focused. This was no longer just about my betrayal. It was about reclaiming control and finding a way to address the financial damage she had caused. Armed with this new evidence, I started to develop a plan for what came next. I had to be strategic in my approach, ensuring that I didn't act impulsively. My primary goal was to confirm the full extent of her deception and, if possible, recover some of the financial losses. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to see this through to the end. Emma's betrayal had shattered my trust, and I was prepared to take whatever steps were necessary to uncover the truth and restore some semblance of justice in my life. Armed with the evidence of Emma's betrayal and the financial misconduct that followed, I knew I had to take decisive action. This was no longer just about uncovering the truth. It was about reclaiming control and enacting a plan for revenge that would hit Emma where it hurt the most: her wallet. I spent the next few days meticulously planning my next moves. I wanted to be discreet and methodical, ensuring that every step I took was calculated to avoid detection and maximize the impact. The goal was to retrieve as much of the misappropriated funds as possible while maintaining a low profile. The first step in my plan was to gain access to Emma's financial accounts. I had already obtained some of her passwords during my investigation, but I needed to ensure that I had full control over her banking activities. I set up a secure system to monitor her accounts without raising any alarms. Using the information I had, I logged into her online banking and began scrutinizing the transactions more closely. I made detailed notes of all the large withdrawals and expenditures that seemed suspicious. It was clear that Emma had been funneling money into various accounts and making large purchases that were not part of our shared financial goals. To avoid arousing suspicion, I decided to start with small, incremental withdrawals. I transferred modest amounts from her accounts to a newly opened account in my name, ensuring that the sums were low enough not to trigger any alerts from the bank. I planned to gradually siphon off funds without drawing attention. Over the next few weeks, I carefully executed these small transfers, making sure to keep the amounts below the radar. I also paid close attention to the timing of my withdrawals, avoiding any patterns that might be detected by bank security systems. Every transaction was documented, and I kept a meticulous record of every cent that was moved. In parallel with managing the financial aspect, I continued to gather more evidence of Emma's misconduct. I collected receipts, photographs, and records of her extravagant spending and meetings with Daniel. I wanted to ensure that if the situation escalated, I had a comprehensive dossier to support my claims. One evening, after another discreet transfer, I received an email from Emma. She was asking to meet and discuss something important. I was taken aback, unsure of what to expect, but I saw this as an opportunity to confront her and potentially gather more information. I agreed to the meeting, planning to use it to my advantage. When we met at a quiet cafe, Emma appeared nervous but composed. She started the conversation by apologizing for her behavior, claiming she was under stress and that things had spiraled out of control. Her words were filled with a mix of guilt and manipulation, but I kept my emotions in check. She attempted to explain her actions, but I remained non-committal, probing her responses while keeping my intentions concealed. I subtly hinted at financial concerns, gauging her reaction, and trying to gauge how much she knew about my actions. Emma's responses were evasive, but she seemed unaware of my growing control over her finances. The meeting ended with her expressing a desire to work things out, but I remained distant and non-committal. I knew that any indication of my true feelings or actions could jeopardize my plan. I left the cafe with a clearer understanding of Emma's state of mind, but remained focused on my objective. As I continued to execute the financial maneuvers, I began to think about the final phase of my plan. I needed to ensure that the impact of my actions would be significant enough to serve as a proper retribution. I considered various options, including confronting Emma with the full extent of her financial misdeeds and the potential consequences. The path to revenge was fraught with complexities, but I was resolute. My meticulous planning and calculated steps were designed to ensure that Emma's betrayal would not go unanswered. Each action was a step towards regaining control and delivering a form of justice for the deceit and financial damage she had inflicted upon me. The days that followed my meeting with Emma were filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. The plan was progressing smoothly, with the incremental transfers and careful monitoring of her financial activities yielding positive results. But I knew that the real test would come when I had to face Emma directly with the full extent of her betrayal. One evening, I received a notification from my secure financial tracking system. Emma had made a substantial withdrawal from her account. The amount was larger than usual, and it was evident that she was preparing for something significant. I wondered if she had caught on to what I was doing, or if this was merely a routine expense. I decided it was time to act. The confrontation needed to be precise and impactful, ensuring that Emma fully understood the consequences of her actions. I meticulously reviewed all the evidence I had gathered, including the hidden camera footage, financial records, and photographs of her lavish spending. I compiled everything into a comprehensive dossier that would leave no room for denial. On the day of the confrontation, I felt a surge of anxiety mixed with determination. I chose a private setting for our meeting, a secluded park where we could talk away from prying eyes and distractions. It was a place that held sentimental value for us, a spot where we had spent many happy moments together, making it all the more poignant. As I arrived at the park, I found a quiet bench overlooking a serene pond. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves, and waited for Emma to arrive. I had instructed her to meet me here under the pretense of discussing our relationship, knowing that she would be more likely to open up in a familiar and comfortable setting. Emma arrived promptly, her demeanor somewhat guarded but hopeful. She greeted me with a tentative smile, and we exchanged pleasantries before I steered the conversation toward more serious matters. "I've been thinking a lot about us," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "And I need to discuss some things that have been bothering me." Emma nodded, her expression growing more serious. "I understand. I know things haven't been perfect lately, but I want to work things out." I took out the dossier I had prepared and placed it on the bench between us. I watched as her eyes widened in confusion and then fear as she began to flip through the documents. The photographic evidence, bank statements, and screenshots of her lavish purchases were all laid bare. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's the truth," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "It's the evidence of what you've been doing, the money you've been spending, the lies you've been living. It's all here." Emma's face turned pale as she looked at the images of her with Daniel and the records of her financial transactions. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and desperation. "I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand," she said, her voice breaking. "I was trying to give us a better life. I got caught up in it all, and I'm so sorry." I struggled to maintain my composure. The pain of her betrayal was still fresh, and her apologies felt hollow. "A better life? You were living a lie, Emma. You were spending our money on a life that was never meant to be ours. And all the while, you were with another man." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, unable to meet my gaze. "I know, I was wrong. I didn't know how to fix things, and I got swept up in it all. Please try to understand." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Understanding isn't enough. There are consequences to your actions. I've already taken steps to address the financial damage and to recover what was taken." Emma's face fell as she realized the extent of what I had done. She was now aware that her financial misconduct had serious repercussions. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been monitoring and managing the accounts," I said. "I've been making sure that the funds are being retrieved and that there's accountability for what you've done. This is not just about our relationship anymore. It's about rectifying the damage." The confrontation left Emma devastated, but it was necessary to lay everything out in the open. I knew that this was a pivotal moment, and it was important for her to understand the gravity of her actions. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. The confrontation had been difficult, but it was an important step in reclaiming my control and ensuring that justice was served. The path ahead was still uncertain, but I was determined to see it through, address the financial damage, and move forward with my life. The confrontation with Emma was a critical moment, but it was only the beginning of the aftermath. With the full extent of her betrayal laid bare and the financial damage addressed, I knew I had to focus on the next steps. My primary goal was to ensure that the repercussions of her actions were felt and to restore some sense of justice. In the days following our meeting, I continued to manage the financial accounts, ensuring that any further discrepancies were caught and addressed. I made arrangements to recover as much of the misappropriated funds as possible, working with financial advisors and legal experts to rectify the situation. The process was complex and time-consuming. I had to navigate through layers of transactions, some of which were disguised as legitimate business expenses. My legal team helped in filing necessary complaints and claims to recover the stolen funds, while I stayed vigilant in monitoring the accounts for any further irregularities. Despite the intense focus on the financial aspect, the emotional toll of the situation was significant. I found myself grappling with feelings of betrayal and loss, struggling to reconcile the person I thought I knew with the reality of her actions. The memories of our past, the dreams we had shared, now felt tainted by the deceit that had unfolded. During this period, I also took steps to distance myself from Emma. I moved forward with the divorce proceedings, ensuring that the separation was handled with as much professionalism as possible. The legal process was another layer of complexity, but it was necessary to formally close this chapter of my life. Emma's attempts to contact me continued, but I chose to limit our interactions to official matters only. She sent numerous messages, ranging from desperate apologies to attempts at reconciliation. I read them, but I didn't respond. The pain of her betrayal was still too raw, and I needed to maintain my distance to move forward. To cope with the emotional aftermath, I sought support from friends and family. Their encouragement and understanding were invaluable as I navigated this challenging period. I also began to focus on personal growth and healing, taking time to rediscover my interests and passions that had been overshadowed by the turmoil. I made efforts to rebuild my life, starting with small steps toward personal and professional goals. I reconnected with old friends, pursued hobbies that I had neglected, and began to consider new opportunities. It was a gradual process, but each step was a move towards reclaiming my sense of self and finding a new direction. As the months went by, the intensity of the situation began to wane. The financial issues were largely resolved, and the legal matters were progressing toward a resolution. While the scars of betrayal remained, they were beginning to fade as I focused on building a new life. The final resolution of the divorce and the recovery of the funds marked the end of a tumultuous period. Emma's actions had left a lasting impact, but I chose to view this chapter as a transformative experience. It was a lesson in trust, resilience, and the importance of standing up for oneself. Looking back, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. The pain of the betrayal was something I would carry with me, but I had emerged stronger and more determined. The journey had been difficult, but it had led me to a place where I could finally start anew and build a future based on honesty and integrity. With the divorce finalized and the financial matters mostly resolved, I was faced with the task of truly moving forward. The emotional aftermath of Emma's betrayal had left its mark, but I was determined to take control of my life and shape a future that was no longer defined by the past. The first step in reclaiming control was focusing on my well-being. I realized that the ordeal had taken a toll on my mental and physical health. I started by committing myself to regular exercise, a healthier diet, and sufficient rest. Physical activity became a crucial part of my routine, not only for its health benefits, but also as a way to clear my mind and reduce stress. I also sought professional help. Therapy provided me with a space to explore my feelings, work through the trauma of betrayal, and develop strategies for moving forward. The sessions were challenging but essential for understanding how to rebuild my sense of self and find a new direction in life. As I worked on my recovery, I began to focus on my career. The emotional strain from the past had distracted me from my professional goals, and I was eager to re-engage with my work. I set new objectives, sought out growth opportunities, and began to network more actively. My career, once a source of satisfaction, became a focal point for rediscovering my purpose and passion. I also made a conscious effort to reconnect with friends and family. The betrayal had isolated me in many ways, and I wanted to rebuild those important relationships. I reached out to friends I hadn't spoken to in years, organized gatherings, and made an effort to be more present in the lives of those I cared about. Their support was invaluable in reminding me of the positive aspects of my life and reinforcing the connections that mattered. In addition to personal and professional rejuvenation, I decided to make changes in my living situation. The house that had once been our home now felt like a reminder of the past. I put the house up for sale and started looking for a new place that would better reflect my fresh start. The process of finding a new home was both liberating and exciting. It symbolized a new beginning and a chance to create a space that was entirely my own. As I settled into my new home, I took the opportunity to redecorate and make it my own. I chose colors and furnishings that represented my taste and style, creating a space that felt both comfortable and empowering. It was a physical manifestation of the new chapter in my life, one where I was in control and could build a future based on my own choices. The process of reclaiming control was ongoing and required continuous effort. I learned to embrace the changes and challenges with resilience and a positive outlook. The journey was not without its difficulties, but I found strength in the steps I was taking toward healing and growth. Looking back, the experience has taught me valuable lessons about trust, self-worth, and the importance of taking control of one's life. Emma's betrayal had been a harsh lesson, but it had ultimately led me to a place where I could rediscover my strength and potential. As I continued to move forward, I embraced the new opportunities that came my way. I approached life with a renewed sense of purpose, and while the scars of the past remained, they were now part of a story that had led me to a brighter, more hopeful future. Months had passed since the confrontation and the subsequent resolution of the financial issues. My life was slowly finding its new rhythm, and I had been making significant strides toward rebuilding my sense of self and moving forward. However, the final piece of the puzzle remained, dealing with the consequences of Emma's actions and ensuring that justice was served. I had always believed in accountability, and while I had managed to address the financial damage and rebuild my life, I wanted to ensure that Emma faced the repercussions of her betrayal. The deceit and the financial mismanagement were not matters I could simply forget. They needed to be addressed thoroughly. To this end, I continued to work with my legal team to pursue any remaining claims related to the misappropriated funds. Despite our best efforts, some aspects of the case had proven complex and required ongoing legal action. I knew that bringing Emma to full accountability would be a lengthy process, but I was committed to seeing it through. One of the most challenging aspects was dealing with the legal and financial aftermath. Emma had hired her own team of lawyers, and the legal battle was often intense. Court hearings and negotiations were draining, but I remained focused on my goal. The pursuit of justice was not just about financial compensation. It was about standing up for what was right and ensuring that such actions did not go unpunished. During this period, I also had to make a decision about whether to confront Emma one last time. Although our interactions had been minimal, and I had kept a professional distance, there was a part of me that felt a need for closure. I decided to arrange a final meeting, not out of a desire for reconciliation, but to lay everything to rest and to address the final points of contention. The meeting was set at a neutral location, an office space arranged by my lawyer. When Emma arrived, she looked weary and apprehensive. We exchanged formal greetings, and I could see the weight of the past few months bearing down on her. "I wanted to meet one last time," I began, maintaining a calm and composed demeanor, "to finalize everything and ensure that we both have closure on this matter." Emma nodded, her expression a mix of resignation and guilt. "I understand. I've been preparing for this. I know things have been difficult, and I want to resolve everything properly." We went over the final details of the financial restitution and legal settlements. The discussions were straightforward, and I ensured that all terms were clear and binding. My goal was to leave no room for ambiguity or future disputes. As we finalized the paperwork, I took a moment to address the personal aspect of our meeting. "Emma, this has been a painful chapter for both of us. I hope that you can learn from this and find a way to make amends for what has happened." Emma's eyes were filled with tears as she nodded. "I know I've made terrible mistakes, and I regret the pain I've caused. I'm trying to move forward and make things right, but I understand that it's not easy to forgive. The meeting ended with a sense of finality. We had addressed the remaining issues, and while the emotional wounds were not fully healed, there was a clear resolution to the legal and financial aspects. It was a step towards closure and moving forward from a difficult past. In the aftermath of the final reckoning, I continued to focus on my growth and recovery. The journey had been arduous, but I had emerged from it with a deeper understanding of myself and a renewed sense of purpose. The final resolution was not just about settling scores. It was about finding peace and embracing the future with a clear conscience. As I looked ahead, I felt a sense of hope and optimism. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was ready to continue building a life that reflected my values and aspirations, free from the shadows of betrayal and deceit. With the legal and financial matters resolved and the final confrontation with Emma behind me, it was time to focus on the future. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been transformative. I learned a great deal about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of personal growth. Now, it was time to put those lessons into action and embrace a new chapter in my life. The first step in moving forward was to reflect on what I truly wanted. The past months had taught me that personal happiness and fulfillment were paramount. I took time to evaluate my goals and aspirations, both personal and professional. I wanted to ensure that my next steps were aligned with my values and that I was building a life that was meaningful and satisfying. I started by setting new personal goals. I made a list of things I'd always wanted to do but had put on hold. Traveling to new places, pursuing hobbies, and learning new skills became priorities. I booked a trip to a destination I had always dreamed of visiting, a place where I could explore and rejuvenate. The trip was both an adventure and a symbolic step towards embracing new experiences. In addition to travel, I rekindled old hobbies and interests. I took up painting, something I had enjoyed in my youth but had neglected for years. It was a creative outlet that allowed me to express myself and find joy in the process. I also started taking cooking classes and experimenting with new recipes and cuisines. These activities brought a sense of fulfillment and helped me reconnect with my passions. Professionally, I focused on advancing my career. The time away from work had given me a fresh perspective, and I was eager to apply it. I sought new opportunities for growth and took on projects that challenged me and aligned with my long-term goals. I also invested time in networking and building professional relationships, which opened doors to new collaborations and ventures. The process of moving forward also involved nurturing my personal relationships. I made a concerted effort to stay connected with friends and family, reaching out regularly and making time for meaningful interactions. Rebuilding these connections was important for my emotional well-being, and I valued the support and companionship of those who had been there for me during the challenging times. One of the most significant aspects of moving forward was the focus on personal well-being. I continued with my exercise routine, incorporating activities that I enjoyed and that contributed to my overall health. I also maintained regular therapy sessions to ensure that I was processing my experiences and continuing to grow emotionally. As the months passed, I found myself feeling more at peace with the past and optimistic about the future. The scars of betrayal had healed, and while they had left a mark, they had also given me a deeper understanding of myself and what I wanted from life. I was no longer defined by the pain of the past, but rather by the strength and resilience I had developed. I also began to consider new possibilities for the future. The experiences I had gone through opened my eyes to new opportunities and perspectives. I explored the idea of giving back to the community, finding ways to use my experiences to help others who might be facing similar challenges. Volunteering and mentoring became meaningful ways for me to contribute and make a positive impact. Looking back, I saw the journey as a series of steps that led me to a place of personal growth and renewal. The pain and betrayal had been profound, but they had also been catalysts for change and self-discovery. As I embraced the future, I did so with a sense of hope and excitement for what lay ahead. Moving forward wasn't just about leaving the past behind. It was about embracing the lessons learned and using them to build a life that was rich, fulfilling, and true to who I had become. Each day was a step toward a future that I was ready to shape, filled with new experiences, opportunities, and a renewed sense of purpose. The transition to this new chapter in my life had been both challenging and invigorating. With the past largely resolved and the future ripe with potential, I felt a deep sense of readiness to embrace new beginnings. It was a time to take all that I had learned and apply it to build a life that was truly my own. One of the most exciting aspects of this new phase was the opportunity to create a home that reflected my fresh start. After selling the old house, I moved into a new place, a modern apartment with a panoramic view of the city. The apartment was bright and airy, with large windows that let in plenty of natural light. It was a blank canvas that allowed me to infuse my personality and preferences into every corner. I spent weeks decorating the apartment, carefully choosing colors, furnishings, and art that resonated with me. I selected calming blues and warm neutrals for the walls and adorned the space with contemporary furniture and vibrant artwork. The process of transforming the apartment into a reflection of my own taste and style was both therapeutic and exciting. It felt like a physical manifestation of my new beginning, a place where I could truly be myself. With my new home coming together, I also began to focus on building new routines and habits. I started exploring the city, discovering new cafes, parks, and cultural spots that had previously been unknown to me. I enjoyed the freedom of setting my own schedule and the thrill of exploring new places. Each outing was an adventure, and it contributed to a growing sense of belonging in my new environment. In addition to exploring my surroundings, I made an effort to broaden my social circle. I joined various clubs and groups related to my interests, such as a local art class and a cooking club. These activities allowed me to meet new people and build connections based on shared passions. I found that engaging in these social settings not only enriched my life, but also helped me forge new friendships and expand my network. Professionally, I was excited to take on new challenges and opportunities. My renewed focus on my career led to several promising projects and collaborations. I was able to leverage the skills and insights I had gained during the past months to make a positive impact in my field. The professional growth I experienced was a testament to my resilience and determination to move forward. One of the most rewarding aspects of this new phase was the opportunity to give back. I had always believed in the importance of contributing to the community, and I wanted to find ways to make a difference. I began volunteering with a local organization that provided support to individuals facing financial hardships. The work was meaningful and fulfilling, and it allowed me to use my experiences to help others in need. As I continued to settle into my new life, I also took time to reflect on the lessons I had learned. The journey from betrayal to recovery had been difficult, but it had ultimately led to personal growth and a renewed sense of purpose. I learned the value of resilience, the importance of self-worth, and the power of new beginnings. Looking ahead, I was filled with a sense of optimism and anticipation. The future held endless possibilities, and I was eager to explore them. I approached each day with a sense of curiosity and excitement, ready to embrace new experiences and opportunities. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was moving forward with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of what it meant to build a life that was truly fulfilling. Each step I took was a testament to my journey and a celebration of the new beginnings that lay ahead. As I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, looking out over the city lights, I felt a profound sense of peace. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to a place of strength and possibility. And as I looked ahead, I knew that the best was yet to come. A year had passed since I embarked on the journey of rebuilding my life after the tumultuous events of the past. The days and months had flown by in a whirlwind of new experiences, personal growth, and gradual healing. As I looked back, I could hardly believe how much had changed and how far I had come. The apartment, once a blank canvas, had now become a vibrant and lived-in space. The walls were adorned with photos from my travels, artwork I had collected, and mementos from various milestones. Each piece told a story, a testament to the new experiences and personal achievements that had marked the past year. The apartment had transformed into a true reflection of my journey, a place of comfort, creativity, and renewal. Professionally, the year had been a period of significant growth. I had taken on challenging projects and pursued new opportunities that expanded my skill set and broadened my horizons. My work was fulfilling, and I felt a deep sense of satisfaction from the accomplishments and progress I had made. The challenges I had faced had only strengthened my resolve and sharpened my focus, allowing me to excel in my career. Socially, I had built a network of meaningful connections. The friends I had made through various clubs and activities had become a supportive and integral part of my life. We shared countless experiences, dinners, outings, and spontaneous adventures that enriched my days and provided a sense of belonging. The relationships were built on genuine connections and mutual interests, and they brought a new dimension of joy and companionship to my life. The volunteer work I had started was also thriving. I had become deeply involved with the local organization, dedicating time and effort to help those in need. The work was both challenging and rewarding, and it gave me a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Seeing the impact of our efforts and the gratitude of those we helped was a powerful reminder of the importance of giving back and making a difference. Reflecting on the past year, I was struck by the profound changes that had taken place. The emotional scars from the betrayal had healed, replaced by a sense of resilience and strength. The experience taught me invaluable lessons about trust, self-worth, and the importance of embracing new beginnings. I had learned to navigate challenges with grace and to approach life with a renewed sense of optimism. One of the most significant aspects of the past year has been the opportunity to rediscover myself. The journey allowed me to reconnect with my passions, explore new interests, and set goals that aligned with my values. I had embraced change and used it as a catalyst for personal growth, finding joy in the process of reinventing my life. As I sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The view was a reminder of the journey I had undertaken and the progress I had made. The city, once a backdrop to my struggles, had become a symbol of new possibilities and opportunities. The past year has been a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of moving forward. It had been a time of rebuilding, rediscovery, and renewal. And as I looked to the future, I felt a profound sense of hope and excitement. The lessons learned and the experiences gained had prepared me for whatever lay ahead, and I was ready to embrace it with an open heart and a renewed sense of purpose. The road had not been easy, but it had led me to a place of strength and fulfillment. The future was bright, and I was eager to continue the journey, exploring new opportunities and embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. The past year had been a transformative experience, and as I looked forward, I knew that the best was yet to come.